Right. Okay, James. Thank you very much for giving up the time.
No problem.
So that we can spend a little bit of time going through the handover conversation that we had the other day.
Yeah.
So, like I said to you then, what the purpose of this session is to us to have a chat about what we think a really good handover process looks like, what elements we think are important during a handover, what the great outcomes from a really good handover are. So I want to go through those, but with the ultimate aim of giving you the responsibility, if you like, for putting together a best practice formula for holders that you can then disseminate to other salespeople as they join us, junior salespeople who are stepping up to doing handovers, that kind of thing.
I'd love to. Yeah, okay. Thank you.
Brilliant. So that's the purpose of the session, is to really just talk around the handover and then think, right, okay, we're going to pick out the best practice bit. You can then pull it all together.
Sounds good.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I think first thing we'll do is just have a general chat about handovers in general.
Sure.
So from your point of view, what do you think kind of makes a great handover?
Well, I think it all comes down to the customer's experience, not only as myself as an individual salesperson here, but also as holders, because we all fly under the same flag. So the essential thing is to make sure that the customers who come in on their collection, and to be fair, some of them are nervous, some of them are a little bit overwhelmed by new car technology, also plus the controls as well. So it's down to us to ensure that they feel comfortable when they drive away. They're not always going to know all the specification when they drive away, because they may forget some.
Yeah.
So that also means that the follow-up after handover is also just as important as the handover itself.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, you've been doing them a little while. Do you have kind of a basic formula for how you might go about setting yourself up for a handover?
Yeah, I think it essentially, nearly 28 years now, but to be fair, you can't categorically say that a handover is black and white this way or this way, because it's tailored to the individual person themselves, because everybody may do things slightly differently, as long as the conclusion is the same and the customer's happy.
Okay.
But essentially, it's all about preparation. You need to make sure that, first of all, after you've spoken to the customer and qualified the customer and you've stayed in contact with that customer, naturally there are delays at the moment on new cars. So it starts right at the very beginning, the moment you say hello and introduce yourself, qualification, getting to know the customer, knowing that you're always keeping in touch with them if there's any delays on delivery, knowing what the customer's likes and dislikes are, knowing that when you prepare the car, you're preparing the car to that individual, tailored to that customer.
Yeah.
So
that's great. That sounds really good, because I guess a lot of people kind of think handover, that's right at the end. Yeah. But actually, it's all from what you're saying, you're kind of already thinking about that way early in the process, and you're kind of tailoring the way you approach that handover according to what you picked up earlier on. That's a really good one. Yeah, good. And then I suppose, I mean, to some extent, there are going to be some elements that have to be done over time.
Yeah. Okay.
I guess. I suppose they're not always going to be 100% the same, but I'm supposing you're going to have to go through all the controls and tech and that sort of thing.
You do, and again, that's why it starts at the very beginning. When you appraise the customer's part exchange, the moment you unlock their car to give it that test drive, as you do when pricing their vehicle, if their mirrors unfold when you lock the car, you know that when they pick up their new vehicle, if that's a like of theirs, then you know that's something that also you need to go into the computer and you actually need to put that in place. You also need to know that when you get the car ready, do you want all the doors opening at the same time, or do they prefer to have the driver's door open?
I suppose it's one thing knowing what you want to do, but it's also another thing knowing how to do it.
Yeah, absolutely. So as long as the person who's preparing the handover is aware how to do it, you need to tailor that car to exactly how they want it, because anything different can sometimes worry people.
So I'm thinking really that quite an important element is a fundamental understanding of all of the different bits and pieces on the vehicle.
Absolutely,
isn't it? So I guess something you'd want to get across to people is you can't do a good handover unless you actually know how everything.
Yeah, and you need to get to know the cars, which is why if there's a new starter that hasn't worked with SEAT before, it's always a really good idea to get them out driving the vehicles and trying the vehicles. Even knowing where the on and off switch is for the passenger airbag dashboard, because if they're picking up a car with a front child seat, you need to switch the airbag off, but essentially the other side of that is you need that airbag on if they haven't got a child in the front passenger seat. So it's all those small things as well as the big things.
Yeah. Okay. So I suppose we've talked a little bit, I guess, about how you approach it, your preparation,
the product itself.
Preparation, the product. I guess the steps you go through. Which I suppose that's the process. And then I guess what are we looking for? What's the outcome ultimately that we want?
But the conclusion is they stay with SEAT and they come back to us every time when they wish to renew their vehicle, because we're nothing alien to what they've been used to, and if they feel comfortable, generally they come back to us. It's keeping on custom.
Okay. Excellent. So I can see we're talking about the same sorts of things. I think. Do you feel you've got the resources and know-how and access to information and things that will enable you to put together a formula for how we can map out a handover and some best practice tips for some new starters?
Absolutely. Also, that everything is in place resources-wise, the validating side of things, right down to the personal touch as well, with flowers at the end. The administration is absolutely spot on every single time. The paperwork is ready, but that doesn't mean that takes responsibility away from the individual salesman themselves. Everybody has a responsibility to make sure that other things are done as well. Things do get forgotten sometimes, when nothing's perfect. So if you lift up the bonnet on handover before the customer arrives and you notice there's a bit of dust under there, then get a chamois or get a cloth and give it a dust and polish yourself.
But can you see a kind of a pattern developing into what we're talking about that would? Can you kind of envisage a basis upon what we might want to do this?
Absolutely. I mean,
what do you think that might look like?
I would say that you have to make sure you tailor it to the customer's final experience, but also at the same time it's preparation. I would say put in place what's called like the 4 Ps.
Oh yeah.
I mean, you could go with preparation, the process of a handover. You could have the product, and finally you could make it personal. So call it the 4 Ps, and I think if you abide by that, you shouldn't go wrong.
Right. That sounds like a very good idea. I mean, I guess you could use that sort of thing as a
basis.
As your
foundation,
core, and then But I suppose it's important to emphasise to somebody you're coaching that you build it around that, as opposed to just like follow it to the letter.
Essentially, it's like a tree, isn't it? You got the foundation of the tree, which is the 4 Ps, but it branches off into all different directions.
That sounds really good. I guess I suppose from that we're looking for. How that might benefit you, might benefit the company, and most of all, might benefit the customer. I mean, what do you think around? What do you think around that?
Everything should benefit the customer. Firstly, obviously, again, it's down to customer experience. It's also a case of sort of tailor making it to the individual customers, because nobody's exactly the same. Always life would be a bit boring, wouldn't it? So I think realistically, if you benefit the consistency of what you're doing, but also not be adverse to changing things slightly, because nothing is concrete and nothing is always the same as customers. So as long as the final outcome is a customer experience, the customer will remain loyal to not only ourselves here, but also SEAT as a product.
Brilliant. Let's go and do it.
Okay.
Thank you, James.
You're welcome.